Oh boy. Forgive me if I'm a little bit rusty. It's been a while since I reviewed a film. But a very nice and generous guy named Nick, whose username is HardDick on YouTube, he sent me a box set of the Nolan Batman films, wanting my honest opinions on it. And I'll stress, my honest opinions. This might probably not be your opinion, but this is my opinion, and I think the Nolan Batman films are incredibly fucking overrated. Dark Knight pisses. But even Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, of the three, The Dark Knight, I can watch it, but I just don't think it's the greatest movie of all time. 10 out of 10 IGN. And Batman Begins, it has its good elements, but overall, this is not a film I would really rewatch ever again. And didn't. The only reason I did is because of this, because Nick has been very gracious. And it's the least I can do. Now, Christopher Nolan, he did films like Memento, which, remember not minding Memento? Interesting gimmick. Granted, the revelation of the story, the mystery, like the way it ends, was kind of, didn't care for, so I don't rewatch it much. But I like the Guy Pearce, I like the gimmick of it. Insomnia, again, the ending, not the biggest fan of, but it's a well-acted, well-filmed movie. Inception I enjoyed. Inception I think is Nolan's best film. Interstellar I really enjoyed until the finale, when something happened. I'm like, what? I was just so confused. But wait a minute, that wouldn't make sense because of this. And if that happened, then this wouldn't make sense. It was so annoying it took me out of the film and hurt the film for me. Kind of wish Nolan didn't do that. If you're wondering about Interstellar, it's the point where Matthew McConaughey's in the thing and he's like, they built it. A future us. Future us? How the fuck was there a future us when we went extinct? Because this wouldn't have happened the first time around, so we would have been extinct, and if we would have been extinct, how would there be a future us? Well, it's a paradox. He says, no, but I get that's what you're thinking, but my mind just doesn't work that way. Sorry. I'm like, you should have just said it was some fucking aliens or something. Not future us. That simple wording just like bugged the fuck out of me. It's a small detail, but it's a very important detail. Anyway, back to this. So Nolan had done a couple films, and he got the chance to do this, a reboot of Batman. Because by this point, Batman and Robin killed the franchise. It was god-awful. Batman and Robin was 1997. I know it was around this time, well, I guess really late 90s, that they wanted to do a Superman movie with Tim Burton and Nicolas Cage, and that got canceled. And then Warner Brothers, I guess, was wondering what they're going to do for superheroes. Well, let's do this film. David Goyer had a hand in writing it, which I'm not a fan of David Goyer. I think he lucked out writing Blade 1 and 2. Most of his other films sucked. Blade Trinity, which he directed. The Invisible. I think he worked on, like, some of the Man of Steel and Batman v Superman or some shit. I think David Goyer is also the idiot who went, oh, they made She-Hulk so that the Hulk could find someone to fuck. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, isn't the She-Hulk related to Hulk, like his cousin or something? You're writing comic book movies, and you don't even know that? I don't know shit about She-Hulk, but I know that she's related to the Hulk. Unless you're talking about kissing cousins. Maybe that's the kind of comic book movie you want to write, David Goyer, but fucking idiot. Fucking moron. So, they did this. They got Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. Liam Neeson, who you find out is Ra's al Ghul. They got Morgan Freeman to play this character Fox, who builds the gadgets. Gary Oldman to play Gordon, who would become Commissioner Gordon. Michael Caine as the butler, Alfred. Rutger Hauer has a part in this. I always forget Rutger Hauer was in this. May he rest in peace. Katie Holmes as the love interest, Rachel, who then got recast in The Dark Knight for Maddie Gyllenhaal. And I honestly thought Katie Holmes did a better job than Maddie Gyllenhaal in the next one. That's just me. But this movie, it's not like the big piece of shit or anything. Maybe this would be called a mild rant. Okay, if I look at the positives, I enjoy the supporting cast. I mean, you got Michael Caine, you got Morgan Freeman, you got Rutger Hauer, you got Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, I thought did a nice job as Scarecrow. Liam Neeson. I think this is before Taken, where his career took off, pun intended. But it was cool to see all these good actors. I know Christopher Nolan, his inspiration was Richard Donner's Superman, because of the cast they got for that. But the origin of Batman just wasn't that interesting watching in this movie. I found it rather dull and boring. Now, I can't sit here and say I'm this big comic book reader of Batman. Because that's what happens a lot when a new comic book movie comes out. And then these people go, I read all the comics. How many? 20. When? This year. Really? You've been a huge fan for years, but you only read 20 in 1 year. This year. But you're the biggest fan of it. No, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, I know everything about Batman. Here's what I know about Batman that I liked. I liked the 2 Tim Burton films. And Batman Returns, which I reviewed on my YouTube channel. I still enjoy those movies. But some of the animated shows I've seen and did not mind. Some of the animated movies I liked. The Dark Knight Returns, where Peter Weller voiced Batman, really enjoyed those. Batman Under the Red Hood, really enjoyed that one. Public Enemies, which Batman and Superman were in. I enjoyed that one. Looking over my shelf at them. Even like Batman vs. Dracula, I thought that was a fun animated movie. There's quite a few that I did enjoy. I've really never seen Adam West's Batman. Only bits and pieces and clips. I think I saw the movie that they did, but didn't really watch much of the show. And I haven't read much of the comics. So I can't say what's more faithful or not. I can't look at it in that frame of mind. So for people who are big fans of the movie, who followed the comic year after year after year, and follow the character, and you got a very serious, very realistic take on Batman, trust me, I can understand that. I can appreciate that. You have no idea how I understand why you like it. Why? It's going to sound stupid, but bear with me. How you feel about Batman is how I feel about the Ninja Turtles. Again, before you think that's silly, Ninja Turtles start off very dark, in comic book form, very violent. Batman start off as a bit more violent, serious character. What really helped the popularity of both? A TV show, which was very much silly for kids. Adam West Batman and the late 80s, early 90s Ninja Turtles cartoon. The difference is Batman, people forget that before Tim Burton made Batman, Batman was labeled as a kid's thing. That's what people forget. Oh, he's the guy in the Super Friends and, Batman, whatever. They didn't look at him as, oh, this is a thing adults will like. Maybe in comic book form. I'm talking about, media, the general public was like, oh, yeah. Then they saw Tim Burton's Batman, they go, oh, okay. This is what you can do with it. Sadly, that never happened with Ninja Turtles. Got close with the 1990 movie, which I really enjoy. I also enjoy the sequels, Secret Reviews. Granted, it's more kids, but I thought for that trajectory, it was done fairly well. But Ninja Turtles is still looked at as strictly a kid's property, which I find stupid because this is what people thought of Batman. But then when you actually did films, granted, give credit where credit is due, the Nolan Batman films were very successful and very influential. Maybe you don't like how they influenced it, but it was very successful and very influential. You could do that with other properties, like Ninja Turtles, really delve into the characters, because you want to say that's silly? You know what's also silly? Oh, well, a walking, talking turtle is silly. Yeah, you know what else is silly? A guy who's a billionaire going out dressed as a bat. That's silly. It's how you utilize it that makes it work or not work. But getting back to this. I appreciate what they were trying to do with building up his backstory, that he was afraid of bats as a kid. He was in a theater with his parents. He wanted to leave because of something. His parents got killed. He felt guilt because he was the one who wanted to leave, and if he didn't, because he was afraid of bats, and something he saw on stage reminded him of that. If he didn't do that and didn't tell his parents to leave, his parents would be alive. So he has that guilt. He tries to kill the guy years later who murdered his parents after the guy gets out of jail, but someone kills the guy for him so he doesn't get his vengeance. He leaves Gotham, travels the world, learns what it's like to be a criminal, get into their mind set, and goes, frankly, to train to be a ninja with Liam Neeson and this group called the League of Shadows. I mean, again, I get why that could be appealing for diehard Batman fans. It's just, as a guy who knows Tim Burton's Batman and very much enjoy those more, a guy fighting in the mud and really shitty editing, where you just see flailing limbs and incoherence and fucking confusion, doesn't entertain me. Is that because I'm against a serious take? I enjoyed Joker, which came out this year, which I will be picked up on Blu-ray. I think it comes out in January 2020. And sadly, Joker was a more interesting character in that movie than Bruce. Sadly, that's the thing. Christian Bale does not do a bad job as Bruce Wayne. It's just the character I did not find that interesting, especially as Batman. And you just say, well, what about Michael Keaton? Well, Michael Keaton just was more cool as Batman. He didn't have the stupid voice, the sound like he has cancer. I know that's not a joke or not against anyone who's have or had cancer. I'm saying that's what it sounds like. If you smoke 4 packs a day, every day, 24/7, that's what it sounds like. And it sounds ridiculous. It makes me want to laugh anytime he talks as Batman. That's sad that anytime Batman's on screen, I don't want to see it. Sadly, whenever Batman's on screen, it's the least interesting part of the movie. Sad to say. Which should be the case. Because his suit looks fat and bulky. I don't know how to put it. His Batmobile, I fucking hate the tumbler. I think he tumble his ass off a fucking cliff. Tumble his ass to Mars. Well, I fucking care. It looks like a Humvee and a tank fucked. And this was the result. Something you get out of fucking Hot Wheels. This fucking tumbler. I like Batmobile. Not a fucking Humvee, fuck the tank, and this was it. And the batsuit and the voice, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to change the voice. It go deeper like this. Where is he? Where is he? That's stupid. It's not intimidating. It's not scary. And if it's to hide your identity. Did anyone ever reading a comic of Batman, for those who read it, did you ever wonder why they didn't recognize his voice? Or whatever you saw, a movie or other show? No. It's one of those questions they wanted to answer that no one cared to see answered. Even people who like it, a lot of them said, yeah, the voice is bad. That's Batman. That's part of Batman in this movie, in all these 3 movies. And he's hard to listen to take seriously. It's annoying, it's irritating, it's aggravating. It's fucking bullshit. And sadly, this origin is just boring as fuck. No, fucking is more entertaining than this. I take that back. And Christopher Nolan, he's a talent in many things, not in fight scenes. He does not know how to shoot fight scenes. Because in all 3 of these movies, all the fight scenes have no emotion, no impact, no visceralness, no panache, no intensity. Whether it be the sound effects used, which sound weak, the editing, which is schizophrenic, ADD editing, it just comes flailing limbs, or weak-looking hits. Weak-looking hits, whether it's the sound effects they use, whether the way it was filmed, or the way it just was choreographed. I mean, I could pull up a random PM Entertainment, low-budget, direct-to-video action movie from the 90s that's more visceral, well-edited, better choreographed fight sequences than these movies that cost, at least combined, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so the action scenes suck. And that's one thing I can say about, Tim Burton's Batman films. I thought the action scenes worked very well. Whether it be, again, the sound effects, the look of Batman, the voice of Batman, mixed in with I thought, better choreography, and if you say it's not better choreography, then it was just better shot, or better filmed, or because if I had to be honest, there's not a lot of choreography in Tim Burton's Batman films, so I do take that back. But it's just, I don't know. If you don't have less is more, but have Batman do less and not be a confusing mass of limbs and legs and punches, unlike these films. You say they're doing more, but the piss-poor editing just makes you more aggravated and annoyed by maybe I could see something cool, but it's edited so piss-poorly that I can't see it. And Liam Neeson's character, you don't know he's Ra's al Ghul. You find this out later, because he's in it for maybe the first 30-some minutes, then disappears for a good chunk, and then he comes back in the 3rd act. But, you have a training montage, which is not a lot you see of the training, just him and Liam Neeson fighting on the ice, and showing him a couple things, but not a lot, now that I think about it. And this could have been an opportunity where he could have, if this is the origin of Batman, he could learn how to be a detective, or learn how to do this, and how to do that, and how to make things, and I didn't really see a lot of that stuff in it. And long story short, he's told to be an executioner for this guy, because Liam Neeson and this guy who we think is Ra's al Ghul, so I'm like, are they trying to do the Mandarin before they did that in Iron Man 3? You think that's the Mandarin, but it's not. You think this guy's Ra's al Ghul, but it's not. Batman goes, I'm not going to be an executioner. Because the whole plan's leadership is they want to go into Gotham and tear it down. must be allowed to die. Bruce doesn't like that, fights him off, sword fight with the fake Ra's al Ghul, place burns down. He saves Liam Neeson because Liam Neeson became his friend, which, again, was a mistake on Bruce's part. Michael Caine does a good job. Granted, it seems like no matter what he says, Bruce Wayne doesn't listen to a fucking word of advice. I can't think of when he actually listens to Michael Caine's advice. But Michael Caine, again, it's nice to see him in it. And you get dialogue about, as a man, you could be killed, defeated, but as a symbol, you could be everlasting. And him getting the idea to be Batman. And he comes back into Gotham. That's another thing. I don't like the way Gotham looks in these movies. Because there's nothing special about the look of Gotham. It's just Pittsburgh or Chicago, where the fuck they filmed it at. That's all it is. I mean, if that's the case, then just call it Chicago or Pittsburgh. Just have it in the fucking world then. If that's the case. It's one of those weird things, even some of the old Superman movies. Don't call it Metropolis, but then there's the new fucking Statue of Liberty. I think that was in Superman 4. Unless that was supposed to be New York and not Metropolis. I can't remember. Superman 4 is a blank for me. But, okay, you don't have Gotham. That's what, one thing I liked about Tim Burton's films is that Gotham had a life as, Gotham became its own character with the architecture and the design. Here, there's nothing. It's just another city that you would see in fucking Destroy in Transformers 3 or something. I mean, so even Gotham doesn't really... People, a lot of big-time critics, oh, Gotham... Like, no, I don't see what the fuck they're saying about Gotham. It could be any... Jerkwater USA. It could fucking be that. Well, as we call it Jerkwater USA since there's so many assholes in this city. Yeah, but anyway, Bruce Wayne gets back into town. Gets people, gets his job back. Morgan Freeman, cool to see him. I like Morgan Freeman. He builds the gadgets. Pretty much seeing how he gets all his stuff. His Batmobile, the Tumbler, the Humvee and Tank Love Child. The first action as Batman, they're at the docks and he's grabbing people. I'm thinking, okay, I get what they're trying to go for, but if he's trying to make these people afraid, I don't know why they would be afraid. Because the lighting is so bright that I felt no mood or atmosphere to it. I felt no terror or tension or intensity to it. When he's fighting all these guys, again, it's just flailing fucking arms and horrible ADD editing. So I can't understand what the fuck happened. Yeah, that's a great action scene when you don't know what the fuck just happened. And this is called the best action trilogy of all time. Action trilogy. Where you can't see what the fuck the action is. Oh, it's the best action trilogy of all time. When you don't know what the fuck happened in the fucking action scenes. Especially the fucking fight scenes. How can you have the best action when it doesn't have the best action film when it doesn't have the best action? Sorry, I'll pick Die Hard or Cliffhanger or Enter the Dragon or various other action films where you actually see what the fuck is happening with really stellar action set pieces. Another problem is poor attempts at humor. Like, after fighting these guys, he sees the bum. Years ago, he gave his coat to, and Batman goes, "Nice coat." It's just a silly fucking voice, man. Swear to me. Swear to me. I said my voice. Swear to me. I just did some fucking Tic Tacs and fucking NyQuil. Well, NyQuil. Yeah, NyQuil so you can go to bed so I don't have to fucking hear the shit. Get some menthols. Some cough drops. Did some lemon cough drops. Did some tea. Or did some tea bag in your mouth. Maybe the salt from the saliva of the balls to fucking make you have a clearer throat. To voice your orders. Scarecrow, interesting villain, Cillian Murphy, but kind of wasted because he's not really the main villain. He's almost a side villain when he's such an interesting concept where he could make you have this gas and create these fears. That was one of the interesting parts of that Batman Arkham Asylum game, which I played for PS3. I think it was the first one, where you're under the effects of the fear toxin, these crazy hallucinogenic things. I think that could have been played a lot more. They do a little bit of it, but the entire movie could have been based on that kind of weird, what's real, what's not capability. And Cillian Murphy did fine. I like him in 28 Days Later and Sunshine, among others. Good actor, but again, he's sort of just a supporting villain to the real villain was Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson's character. And this movie did not need to be 2 hours and 20 fucking minutes long. You could seriously cut out a half hour of this movie, which hurts the pacing, because I found a lot of it rather boring. Because Bruce Wayne, Christian Bale's cool, and I did Michael Keaton with Batman. That just felt like it went at a faster pace. It was more fantasy mixed in, and fantastical, and comic booky, and the look, and the extravagance of the Joker, and here, since they're focused so much on Bruce Wayne, and again, Christian Bale's acting is good, but the character is like, whatever. I don't, either way, and then as Batman, his voice is so terrible, I'm like, just leave the movie. Now I'm trying to remember what the hell happened after that. Pretty much blah, blah, blah. And fights more thugs to try to capture Scarecrow. Horrible editing once again. By this point, he's met with Gary Oldman's commissioner. He's not commissioner yet, but Gordon. Kitty Holmes, the love interest, she's doused with fear toxin. He needs to take her back for the antidote. I'm like, wait a minute. Here's another thing I don't understand. Okay. Earlier in the film, he got this fear toxin in him. He was able to fight it off. He got Morgan Freeman to create more antidotes. Now, in this sequence, you are going to fight Scarecrow and his thugs. Right? Why do you not have antidote of this thing he uses in your fucking Batmobile, your Tumbler? Wouldn't you have a couple of vials as backup? In case he douses you again, or someone else there? I mean, considering this is the character that's supposed to have a utility belt that everything in the kitchen fucking sink out of his ass, you think he'd have at least a couple vials of the antidote, which would be the most important thing when you go home to diss this fucking guy. But no, he doesn't. So he's got to drive Katie Holmes all the fucking way back to his fucking house in this big car chase, which, I don't know, this car chase didn't really do much for me. I will give credit where credit's due with Christopher Nolan. This does seem like a guy who does more with, wants to do as much practically, so it does become a CGI cartoon fest. I do appreciate that. A lot of real stuff. Especially when it's driving on the rooftops and crashing through things in this chase. I appreciate that. But I don't know if it's the look of the Tumblr, the design, or just being very disinterested in the story and the plot, or this Batman being annoying with his fucking voice. I don't know what it is. It just didn't do much for me. It just did not do much for me. There's when then later on he finds out Liam Neeson is alive and he's Ra's al Ghul, and he's going to have Gotham destroy itself because they're going to put that fear gas everywhere. Burns down Wayne Manor. Michael Caine saves Bruce Wayne. That's one bit of humor I did enjoy from Michael Caine, where this stuff's on Bruce Wayne and he goes, "What's the point of those push-ups? You can't even lift a bloody log." Then they get out. But even the finale just didn't do much for me. I mean, getting shitty fights with these guys, piss poor editing, can't tell what the fuck's going on. He hooks himself to a train, gets on the train, has a really shitty, terribly edited fight scene with Liam Neeson. Gordon, Gary Oldman shoots down the tracks so that he can't get to his destination, and Batman goes, "I'm not going to kill you. I'm just not going to save you," and then he flies off. Ra's al Ghul, don't know much about in the comics, other than I think there's something about a Lazarus Pit, which none of that's in the movie. Because they want to be realistic. Which I get that, but you can be realistic and at the same time, though, you gotta be careful with that, because you're still talking about a guy who wears a bat suit to fight crime. You can have realistic but stretched with flexible reality. What do I mean by that? If you compare Hard Target to, say, Iron Man, I would say Hard Target is more realistic than Iron Man. But at the same time, no one, including me, who's the biggest fan of Hard Target, is going to say that's a completely realistic movie. No, it's escapism. Die Hard is more real than Justice League. But it's not like Die Hard is completely realistic with, hanging on to a rope, a fire hose, even though the building exploded, and just doesn't do anything until he goes through, and then it breaks off, and then it's this. But it's escapism. It's realistic, but it's escapism as well. So I think being realistic, but having a little bit of escapism thrown in there could have helped these movies, in my opinion, but obviously I'm alone in that, so what can you say? Oh, another thing, I forgot about this, that I thought was, when he touches the bottom of his boot, what's that back up? And it's a bunch of fucking bats, and I'm like, again, I get what they're going for, but when you think of Batman, all the crazy gadgets he can do, the fact that he calls down bats, just seem rather tame, and the bats didn't really fucking do anything, and I don't know, just like, okay, distraction. know, it's just something about that just bothered me. I can't put my finger on it. And even the ending was kind of, in a weird way, abrupt, because they stopped the train. But like, wait a minute, the island where all the people were going crazy with the gas, and there's Katie Holmes with the kid, I guess they all got the cure too? I mean, that would have been nice to see. I see someone, a bunch of people go in and giving people the serum or anything of that nature, or having Morgan Freeman or Michael Caine or both go by and unleash the antidote. It's just something like that. The show, instead of just never cutting back to that island where Katie Holmes and the kid were at and all this haywire is going through. Well, speaking of which, of Scarecrow, the fact that he could have been a very interesting villain, and he got taken out by Katie Holmes with a fucking taser to the face. And that's it. Just a fucking taser to the face. Batman didn't even stop him. It's just, you got a fucking taser to the face from Katie Holmes. From Dawson's Creek. This seemed like a really... That happens a lot in these movies. Really lackluster ways the villains get stopped. Even Joker and The Dark Knight, it's just... Batman battled a couple dogs, and then sorry about that, a little fly that I got there. Yeah, he battled a couple dogs, and then that's it. You know, Joker's upside down, and that's it. It's like, okay. Fucking Bane. Fucking Catwoman just go, and then there's Bane dead. Your big fucking villain you spent so long building up, and he gets killed. Literally, I remember when I first saw that, I blinked, and then I'm like, well, what the fuck happened to Bane? I missed it from blinking. Just like I blinked and looked down, and then I kept watching, and then I'm like, wait a minute, Bane didn't come back. And I saw on a download, I will admit that, when I saw this way back when, 2012, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Oh, that's what happened? No wonder I fucking missed it. I'll get to that. The score, really the only piece of score I like is, I guess you call the main theme, that dun, 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 dun. That's the only score I can even remember. I didn't mind it. I'm not going to put it as one of the best fucking scores out there. Still prefer Danny Elfman's score in Tim Burton's movies. Both Batman and Batman Returns. And that's the thing with this movie. Again, I'm giving credit where there's a lot of practical being done. It's not a CGI cartoon fest. Supporting cast is great. Rutger Hauer, Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy. Christian Bale, I like as an actor. He did fine as Bruce Wayne. But the fight scenes are terribly edited, piss poorly choreographed, schizophrenic ADD, can't understand what the fuck's going on. And the action scenes, I don't think is Christopher Nolan's strong suit. I really don't. The origin of Batman, I just didn't find interesting or intriguing or had the ability to pull me into the story. I just found it rather dull, boring, and rather uneventful. The potentially interesting villain of Scarecrow was diluted and kind of thrown away to make room for Ra's al Ghul, and then the villain just gets tasered by Katie Holmes. Katie Holmes, technically you didn't need a love interest in 89 Batman, but this I felt even more so you didn't need a love interest. But I can deal with the love interest in 89 Batman. Here, I think, again, even less so. I'm trying to think. It's the pacing, it being 2 hours and 20 minutes, which, like I said, you could take like a half hour out of this movie. And yeah, I'm watching going, it's rather dull, it's rather boring, and don't care for the suit, don't care for the shitty looking Batmobile Tumblr shit. Ending, I thought was weak sauce. Dull, rather boring for a finale, and just overrated. Batman Begins I found rather overrated, considering since then there's been plenty of origin stories. Iron Man, Captain America the First Avenger, before that Superman, after that Blade, like many other first movies that I much prefer over this. Doctor Strange, which I find funny because when Doctor Strange goes up the train, kind of remind me of when Bruce Wayne goes up the train. But Doctor Strange, I thought was more interesting, more exciting, faster paced, and better action scenes, and better done. Honestly, I really do believe that. You're a Marvel fanboy. Well, I mentioned Superman and Batman, the Richard Donner and Tim Burton. And if you think I'm a Marvel fanboy, you should watch my YouTube channel, my thoughts on the Avengers movies. Especially the last two. Or Captain Marvel, or Black Panther. Actually, I don't know if those are still up. Those might be gone. But I wasn't a fan of Black Panther. I wasn't a fan of Infinity War. I wasn't a fan of Endgame. Captain Marvel was a piece of fucking dog shit. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Batman Begins. Not my cup of tea. Not for me. Supporting cast, I'll give credit to, but its idea, it's what it was trying to do, I appreciate. I mean, great, I would love to see that someone do this for my favorite character, Raphael from Ninja Turtles. Or other characters. I can appreciate that. It's just, in this case, whether because I didn't grow up with Batman comics, whether I'm not in the realm to appreciate it like many others do, because my history of Batman is rather lacking compared to others, or because of the various reasons I gave in this review, Batman Begins, as well as the Dark Knight trilogy, just didn't do it for me. And I'll go more to that when I talk about, I would say, the best of the three, The Dark Knight. So, hopefully, to Nick, username HardDick on YouTube, hopefully you liked this review, or I should say rant. Thanks for watching, take care, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.